Hello everyone, this is Asas from TechSpin, and today we are here with yet another episode. And today we're going to talk about robotics. And for robotics, I have with me Mr. Zaid Ahsan Shah. Zaid, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you, Asad?
Okay, Zaid. Okay, so before we start with the conversation, let me give you a brief introduction about Mr. Zaid. Zaid is an electrical engineer and his specialization is in robotics. He's an artist and he's also an entrepreneur who's currently working on industrial and medical robotics projects. And he also has his own startup, which is named as Innovative Design Essentials, which is basically related with STEM education, which in which he's helping high school kids with life skills and new teaching them new tools like robotics and etc. So I'll put the link of his startup in the description so you can go and check it out. So, Zad, how are you doing?
I am good, lounging around on a lazy Sunday. How about you?
Okay, Zad, it's a pleasure to have you here on our show. So, first of all, I'll start with the first question. What is robotics and how it is different from automation of industrial evolution? So, we we have seen a lot of automation in the industrial space in the past 20, 30 years, and now we're talking about robotics. So, can you give us a little brief description of how robotics is different from what's already being done in the industries?
Um, Fundamentally, what we think when we talk about robotics is some sort of a machine or sort of contraption or a mechanism. But if you go about it in a little bit depth, so the industrial age was the evolution of the human society when we could develop things very quickly, but in multiple ways or without compromising on the quality of the product. That was automation in a nutshell. How is robotics different from this type of automation is that now there is an element of intelligence and creativity to those machines. As if before now, in during the boom of the late or mid 20th century, people generally set up machines or devices or apparatuses or plants to produce the same device, same product over and over again. Now, when we come to robotics, this is the type of machine or this is the type of a revolution which machines can think for themselves. Now, the idea that would arise from it, which I believe you would have from this as well, is that what then constitutes intelligence, right? We'll get to that in a little bit, but fundamentally, the difference between robotics and automation is automation was a dumb, repetitive, very efficient task, whereas robotics is a very highly intelligent task, which might not be as efficient as automation. That's the basic difference between both.
Oh, okay. Um, so, what sort of research is going on in robotics today, and uh, what is the current level of intelligence we're seeing in robotics?
Okay. Um, I believe Mosem will touch on this in a little bit more detail, but for now, what I can share with you is that intelligence fundamentally is the way or technique in which we make decisions, right? If human beings have come on top of the food chain through evolution or through social development, it is because we were able to make correct decisions which made our sustenance or made human beings sustain uh, throughout their societies or communities. When it comes to artificial intelligence, there are a lot of challenges that we are currently facing. For instance, how to define intelligence as if it is survival, if it is um, creativity, if it is emotional intelligence. So there are categories of intelligence, but when we come to artificial intelligence, we generally try to restrict ourselves to the ability to make informed decisions. One of the very booming fields in artificial intelligence is called machine learning. And one of the outcomes of machine learning is called deep learning. In deep learning, what we do is we basically make a small replica of the human brain, and a robot or a machine is given a large amount of experience, and based on that experience, it trains itself to a certain task or find a certain problem. We haven't developed creative intelligence so far. We have developed decision making intelligence. So this is where the intelligent aspect of robotics comes in. We have fundamentally copied it from the human experience, that we can learn from our experiences and then develop a workable model in our minds and then use that again and again. Right? So this is how intelligence operates, as opposed to just simple automated for the same task. Yeah.
Okay, so what sort of difference we'll be seeing? Because when we talk about, let's say, robotics being used in car manufacturing, that's
Mhm.
the example if we take. So those robots are programmed to uh, manufacture cars, and they're doing the same task over and over again. So what would you classify those robots as intelligent robots, or is there
Or as
something
automation machines.
more to it?
Yeah. So for now, there are two school of thoughts in the robotics research community. One says that the mechanism matters more than the brain of the robot, and the other says that no matter how sophisticated the mechanism is or how difficult a task the robot is doing or the machine is doing, if it's not thinking on its own, it's not a robot. And uh, generally, the trend is that a larger community of robotics researchers is jumping board to the second school of thought, that intelligence makes a robot, not the mechanism. And if you see about it, that if you think about it, that the plants which are manufacturing machines or vehicles or anything, those plants are all automated plants which are generally gradually introducing elements of intelligence into it. That is why we call them robotic or robotic car manufacturing, because they are generally moving away from none of the mill repeating the same task over and over again, moving towards efficient and intelligent machines which can perform same task but with a little bit flexibility to it. They can think on their own as well. So it's not a hard line between automation and robotics right now, but fundamentally how people like to define it is the transition region in which we are right now. That's where the community lies for us humans in general throughout the world. That's the key point, that for that the transition from automation to robotics. It's a very smooth transition. It's not something that happens overnight. Say, okay, oh, our machines weren't intelligent yesterday, and they all of a sudden became intelligent today. No, all elements like the viewers which are familiar with programming languages, they might know that we can make if-else decisions, whereas in robotics, if you just implement those simple if-else decisions, those are still hardwired. It's a bit of a gray region for now, because I wouldn't say it's intelligent, but it's not dumb as well, because some of the tasks that these machines do are pretty interesting. For instance, I'll give you an example. Um, Today, we know anti-lock braking systems, ABS braking. That's in almost every car around the world, or every safe car around the world. And whenever someone hits the brake for anti-lock braking, it generally tries to recognize what type of a condition is the tire in, and not make sure that the tire skids just to save the human life. This is somewhat of an intelligent design. But then again, to say that it can come up of this design can think on its own, I think that's a long shot for now. But generally, the industrial trend is moving away from automation towards robotics, and that's a gray region. There's a transition band in this. Yeah.
So, what's the current situation of robotics and AI, and what we expect as a species from it?
Generally, I think throughout the medieval ages, we were just fighting for survival against each other. And then the industrial revolution or the Renaissance, during that time, we were looking more towards serving the community. And now at the point, uh, artificial intelligence came in the mid to late 90s. It became very popular, early 90s even. And it served as a last nail in the coffin of industrial automation or industrial revolution. Now we are living in the age of information. So currently, any new information generates value in the economy for information age. So in the information age, the economy is information. It's not doing the same thing over and over again. This is where we are right now. We are in the transition band of this shift from industrial to intelligent age. But where I see it going in the future, it's a very interesting thing as well, but it's a challenging thing because when we see that the dynamic shift from doing the same thing over and over again to a point where machines do everything on their own, we kind of lose the need for a human being to be there in the first place, right? So, this is the type of future that we are going towards. We are going to remove all the physical and mental effort of a human being and delegate that to a robot or a machine. This is the type of future we are going towards. It has its own consequences, and certainly there are challenges associated with it. But generally, right now we are doing our
So,
own tasks and some of the mental tasks, and we are going to give all of them to robots. Yeah.
so what do you think has been the reason behind this boom, or we see a lot of buzz on artificial intelligence, and that has came up in the last 2 to 3 years. It wasn't that popular before that time. And if I see today, the top trends in technology are artificial intelligence, machine learning, data sciences. So why
Yeah.
now? IT, internet has been there, even broadband internet has been there for quite a lot of time. Uh, what do you think has been the catalyzing factor uh, for this rising trend? Is it the marketing? Is it driven by some major manufacturers, or is it driven by governments, or is it a natural, or is it a technological milestone that we have achieved, due to which now AI is becoming more popular?
I believe that a lot of things play part into it. You cannot pinpoint it to a single element that this is the main reason why technology has advanced so much. But a few that stand out among the rest are that fundamentally it's in the human design to be lazy. We tend to get good at things that we do, right? If let's say I go around, throw the ball with some other kids on the street and try to play soccer with them, I might not be as good first day, but given a number of years in the experience, I might even become a national level sports, even not even a national level, a local regional level sportsman. This is how human brain works. We tend to spend less and less energy once the novelty of the task is subdued by our brains. For instance, I'm an artist. I like to sketch, but the first time that I tried to paint something, it was really challenging for me to play around with the brush and play with the pigments, but my brain over time adapted to it. So human beings by design have this tendency towards laziness, or I think the word should be efficient use of energy, right? This is the type of thing that we naturally move towards. A person who is doing something will generally get good at that thing. An engineer who is designing robots will get good at it. A doctor who is performing surgeries will get good at it over time. Or you can simulate that as experience as well. So in the recent years, we did, as a society, human beings did perform industrialization, and they were able to meet, quite frankly, well, I mean, quite easily for the past. Uh, but at the end of it, we started moving towards optimization of those techniques. We started moving towards efficient manufacturing of soaps, of cars, of food products, of everything. So this efficient manufacturing or laziness in terms of our automation that led to the dawn of industrial or information age. And I think a major credit goes to media as well because in the recent years, you must be familiar with these as well yourself, that there has been a boom in the type of coverage these projects are getting. These type, even in the science fiction community, artificial intelligence is playing a huge part now. There are machines. There were Terminators back in the days as well, but right now these are quite common as compared to just one or two Hollywood movies or blockbusters showing an artificially intelligent machine. This is a trend which is being highlighted not only by the media, but this is a natural need where we are communicating right now. As far as the geopolitical aspect is concerned, I believe that right now, since there are lesser wars around the world, we can focus more on development of the countries. And because development requires focused or managed resource allocation, that is also another factor that plays, if not directly, an indirect role in the boom in AI on a global scale, if you are asking. I think that's the key point in it. There is no single factor to it, but it was meant to happen as well, and something sped it up.
Yeah. Okay, Zaid, what do you think is going to be the impact on society? And when I talk about society, uh, what do you think is going to be the impact of AI and robotics in our lives in the first world countries and in the third world countries? Because we've seen in sci-fi movies, we've seen it, we've heard it, of robots taking over jobs, robots doing better than humans. So what sort of impact is it going to make?
Um, that's actually a very interesting question because whenever people hear about robotics, it sounds like a very niche or a difficult field. Like this is so super genius, evil, crazy kind of science in their labs. But um, it's not like Terminators are going to come after us, going to shoot us down. Like it's not going to happen like that overnight. I believe people have made military robots as well, but the purpose for those isn't to eradicate all humanity. It's for mainly for safety and security reasons or exploratory reasons as well. But to come to your question, the way in which our lives will be affected by robotics is pretty much unprecedented because for the most part, even if a person is physically paralyzed, he can actually use his brain, right? Now we are delegating our intelligence or our thinking aspect, and this is the new thing in this revolution. There is a mental crippling that is going to happen to humans less because if we don't use our brains we will start to lose our brains. That's common biology, and majority of the cases people don't appreciate AI to solve or help us in the difficult things. We want facilitation or ease in our day-to-day lives. So there will be a balance in all of this, of course. But the way I see it is that the trend towards robotics right now is to facilitate lives. It's to make lives easier. That's good. But where define a border for life or what defines easy, that's subjective. For example, it would be easy for me to just sit back at my home and do everything remotely and not even do it myself. I can write a script which can do things for me, right? And whereas for you, it might be easy to, just get a reminder while you're working that, okay, you need to do this as well. So there is a subjective level of ease that everyone adheres to. There is an internal laziness that we all adhere to. And all of us expect that we will have our needs fulfilled by robotics. Now, coming to the meat of the question that the first world countries have economically, if you think about it, they have a lot of cash, they have a lot of resources to spend on their people, and they have a lesser population overall. So the per capita resources are very high in the first world, and they can actually where the laziness aspect of robotics, like say for instance, they can replace the human muscle. They can ask people to stay at home while robots are doing their job in the fields or in their physical or manual labor jobs, and they can afford that. They can actually afford it because they have a lot of resources and population. Whereas in the third world countries, the situation is actually flipped. Third world countries have very low resources and they have a very high population overall across the spectrum. So when it comes to third world countries, excuse me, when it comes to third world countries, the problem is yes, it's true that automation has ruled out many jobs. And since we have a large population, I believe, and this is my expectation of it, I don't want it, but I anticipate it to happen, that a lot of people will lose jobs. For instance, during our childhood, when we were growing up in like mid 90s or late 90s, we saw there was a lucrative job of a clerk who was a scribe who maintained all the ledgers of exchange, right? Today, in the age of information, transactions are so easy, and with the technologies like cryptocurrency rising every day, it's so easy to do all of those automatically through a cell phone, and the entire job of or the entire field of a clerk or a person who maintain ledgers is gone now. No one hires someone just to manage their accounts. People just do it on their cell phones all the time, and it's automated. So this trend is going to happen, and there will come a time when we will have to decide that what type of a level of laziness that are we going to accept in our society. As for the third world countries, yes, it is a problem right now, and one of the challenges of robotics is to model for the third world, which can, instead of replacing the human muscle, it can augment or facilitate the human muscle. For instance, if a labor is performing eh, 10 units of task per 1 hour, look towards not just to replace the person, save robotics, so that he can increase from 10 to let's say 11 or 12 or 13 tasks per hour. Now, why am I highlighting this point is because I've seen the recent developments in Germany and China and countries of the first world, which have managed to make machines which pretty much build entire buildings within a matter of days. This is typically a type of a operation which takes at least months, if not years, to complete any sort of a third world country. And if a contractor can hire a machine from a German distributor and just deliver a complete building within a matter of days, let's say within 5 or 6 or 10 days, as opposed to a year from a manual labor contractor, who would you rather hire? And this is the problem where we are standing at right now because robotics is becoming so cheap so easily and everyone can do it. It's not something out of this world. There is a law in electrical engineering. It's called the Moore's law. Moore's law is basically a trend of electronics or electrical technology. It says that after every 1.5, get a twice as fast machine, twice as high high end or tech full machine, or it has double the memory, it has half the power consumption, half the price. Robotics has this trend as well, but rate isn't, it's 8, and things are getting cheaper at the rate of 8 per every 1.5 years. Things are getting better and faster 8 times every 1.5 years. It's actually very rapid as opposed to cell phones or electronic technology. So yes, this is going to happen within the near future. I anticipate it to happen within the next decade. So third world, what the challenge right now is how to jump on board this robotics revolution, all the while making sure that we don't wipe out a majority of the lower class in the third world by just snatching away their jobs. We need to come up with a model which is both efficient economically as well as it can look towards augmenting or facilitating, assisting their lives instead of replacing their lives. This is probably one of the greatest challenges robotics is around the world right now because the first world countries won't even feel it. What happens in the first world countries as a facilitation for the human laziness will be a large scale unemployment and, to my understanding, bad situation for a majority of the third world countries. And that's where the larger population of the world lies. So, in that pyramid or in that power curve, I believe the problem lies the fact that it's not even a problem; it's a challenge. In fact, the challenge lies in the balance of making sure that we do get what we want from robotics. At the same time, we should also highlight that the need of a human must be different from what a robot cannot do. Now, I've been working on this as well for the past, I believe, 2 or 3 years as well, and I've raised this issue in a number of regions around the world. The issue is that we want to make a income model for a human that does not rely on anything that can be replaced by a robot. Now, a robot is going to replace one, the human muscle, and two, the human mind. So what is that actually a robot can do that a robot can't do that a human will necessarily keep on doing, and that can earn him a livelihood. So that got me thinking, and I did a brainstorming sessions with a lot of industry professionals as well. And what we came up with is it's the element of creativity that cannot be replicated or automated. We are creative, and I want to see a future where people are, paid or they earn their livelihood through their creativity, the third world and the first world, so that a person is valued for his mind and the creative aspect of his mind, not the repetitive tasks that he does or the repetitive manual labor of his mind or his body, right? So, moving towards an economy which is not driven by repetitiveness but towards novel or innovative ideas, I believe that's where safer option for both first world and third world lies, um, as far as robotics is concerned. Yeah.
So people should be looking forward to more creative jobs. So there
Yeah.
like more going to be more opportunities for artists, I see.
Yes, I believe that that's also the case right now. You see, in the recent trends of things like microfinancing models, such as through online currency or through even Patreon supporters or things like that, people are generally supporting their lives through creative things much more than the repetitive tasks. And that's what we are delegating to robots in the first place, mental or physical labor. We are delegating that to robots. So we can actually focus on the creative aspects of our lives and, in general, the
So
creative aspects of our
so
livelihood.
everyone who has a laborious job and he feels he's doing a repetitive repetitive things, he should really rethink on his role.
That's a very harsh way of putting it. I'm not asking them to rethink about their life decisions. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight, but the trend is there. We are seeing it, and it's going to speed up. So, uh, I'll give you an example. If a laborer is doing things, if a person or a farmer is in the field, he's manually sowing seeds. Give him a thresher, give him a machine, and he'll sow much more. His productivity will increase a lot, even hundredfold in some cases. At the same time, it will give him more time to think about what type of a seed to sow, what type of a plant does the community need, what type of food does the community need, and I can focus on growing it more, making it more, higher quality, so that I can get a higher revenue from it. That's the creative aspect what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that he should drop everything. He should stop farming and start a painting session for just to make drawings and sell them for money. No, it's more like becoming creative in what they are doing instead of just repetitive. And the transition is also there. The repetition, as it is decreasing, the creative element is bumping up. So I believe that's the human survival as well. When we get pushed down from one side, we tend to generally jump on board to another thing that is surviving. So I believe the next immediate trend for the next 10 to 20 years is that we will see less and less repetitive tasks and creative and innovative designs or ideas. And That's like I said, that's the economy of the information age. Innovation. Innovation drives information age, not repetitive. Repetitive tasks were the economy for, yeah.
And yeah, that's a great perspective. Okay, Zaid, since we're moving to the final stages of our podcast, can you guide people or students who are interested in this field and who want to further specialize into robotics after completing their engineering degrees? What would you advise those people? What sort of courses they should be looking at? What sort of online material they should be looking at? And what sort of programs they should be targeting? And secondly, this is the academia part. What sort of job or what sort of research opportunities they should be looking at to align themselves with the upcoming trends?
Okay. From a social perspective, I think students right now are at a very advantageous point compared to what we were back in, I think, to started these things. They have this advantage that the massive outburst of knowledge that is available, I'm not even saying information, it's actually useful knowledge that is available to their fingertips through different online resources like even Wikipedia or YouTube or even Google searches can lead to a lot of good resources. So they can actually utilize them very efficiently, and one needs a specific degree in robotics to be a roboticist. Now it's much more easier. The basic elements that contribute towards robotics are fundamentally four in nature. It has a mechanical aspect. There is a mechanical aspect to robotics, like design of machines or mechanisms or machine theory in general. Then there is an electrical aspect to robotics, how to control or drive these machines, motors and gears, motors and batteries and power, things like that. Then there is a thinking aspect to robotics, which is the computer science branch of engineering or sciences, where people generally learn how the computers work and what type of programming sequence goes into making some sort of motors or some sort of sensors work. And lastly, I think it's the mathematics that is generally a requirement for every field in life. And the mathematics for robotics is generally the mathematics of engineering or advanced math for A level students. So basically, these are the four fields that can lead towards robotics. Now, like I said, a robotics degree isn't necessary to be a roboticist. Why am I saying that? Is because the trend that I've seen is that people from different backgrounds, like they did their bachelor's in arts, then their master's in mathematics, and then they eventually did a PhD in robotics, and they are very successful roboticists. So one of the key criteria for being a good roboticist is to be a very creative and an aesthetic person. Now, this is rare because right now, there aren't many hard and fast rules to robotics. There is no criteria that you must adhere to these for robotics. So I think of it more of an art, as more of an art than a science. But it's an art which is based on scientifically validatable subject or evaluatable subjects like electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, and mathematics. So there is a creative aspect to robotics, and from an academic perspective, the opportunities that the students should be looking towards is, I believe, go into niches or contests or exhibitions that promote robotics in the academic circle, like regional contests or regional exhibitions or science fairs. And generally, this is what I have seen myself as well. The science fairs in not even universities, but in high schools and middle schools, they are tending towards robotics now, and that's a very good thing because high schoolers and middle schoolers are making robots for themselves. They're, or at least moving in the right direction. So I would say that one, they should be a bit more aware of what is happening in their surroundings, like exhibitions and their contests, and then there are online resources that are available to them, and then try to decide that what type of a niche would they want in robotics, and that's just a web search away because you can actually find there are multiple things that people do in robotics, like sensors, like motors, like design, like machines, like artificial intelligence. So I would suggest that get a flavor of all of these while your viewers are academician or students much more clear or ready to take on whatever they want to do in robotics. Because robotics is going to be a necessity in the future. So might as well start getting used to it now than be forced to do it later on. So that those are my 2 points. One, be aware of what's happening around you, different exhibitions, contests, different uh, people are publishing, and there are many excellent videos available on the net as well for different courses that not only teach robotics but also build an awareness of robotics. And number two, what they should do is they should first actively participate and then try to decide what they want to do and what they want to go into as far as robotics is concerned. Because a robot can have multiple things, but I don't work alone in the field as well. I have multiple robotics engineers with me who are working on different things when it comes to making a robot in or using a robot. That's what I would suggest.
So I think if anyone wants to know more about robotics, I'll put your contact information. I
Sure.
hope you won't mind.
Yeah, they can ping me an email anytime. I will be happy to answer.
Yeah, I'll put Zad's contact on this video and also in the description. So if anyone wants to know more about robotics, Zad would be kind enough to help him out.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy
So
to respond.
thank you, Zad. Thank you, Zad, for your thoughts and sharing valuable information with us on
Yeah,
robotics. And I hope we can have you again on our show with yet another interesting topic or maybe a follow-up video in the
sure.
future.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. So thank you for asking me here.
Uh, any closing remarks if you would like to give?
Um, I think don't be afraid of robotics. That's the closing remark I can give. We have this
Is
fear
it
of
for
unknown.
everyone or is it for me because I'm this was me
No, I know that you
asking.
you get to play around with robotics as well, but this is for everyone because people think robotics is really difficult. They think it's something very hi-fi or it's very flashy. We can thank the media for that as well, but no one expects us to build Terminators overnight, and we don't do that in our industry or in medicine fields as well. So my last comment would be: don't be afraid of it. It's just a field of knowledge. It's just an art. You can learn through it. You can fail in it, and get your toes wet in it. I would suggest that everyone should just get a flavor of robotics. They should know that it's not that difficult to follow through with. It's actually pretty easy, but it's complicated. It's a very huge task, but it's easy nonetheless. So don't be afraid of robotics. That's what I would say because that's
Okay,
what I.
Zed. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for
Thank you
having
for
me,
your
Asif.
remarks. So thank you. So this concludes our episode. Everyone, please click subscribe button, and we'll be bringing you more videos with more interesting people. Thank you. Bye bye.